Fellows, Ben back again. Today I'm going to be sitting with the valve clearance check to diagnose the intermittent noise that comes up from the engine. This noise is it's most loud when you cold start the machine, and then also comes up when the machine has run for some time and then it's idling. Unlike what is out there in the internet, well, there are two theories to this. What's been circulating in the internet, that is, you need to go and get your head replaced. I for now believe that you don't have to. I'll go through the machine once and then know for sure whether you have to or you don't. Two, this engine noise that comes up is normal. You don't have to be worried about it. There's nothing wrong with the machine. It's the nature of the machine. That is also wrong, because this is not something that was there on day one or for about a couple of thousand kilometers. It comes up after that. So there is definitely something that's wearing in an accelerated fashion, and you need to figure out what's that component that's wearing off or wearing out a little too quickly. So my suggestion to all of you, if you have this noise come up, is to get the valve clearance part of it checked first. That's the first diagnosis. That's the most easy thing to diagnose and to perform. And if that is checked and the noise goes away, then problem solved. As simple as that. When the noise comes up again, go ahead and fix the valve clearance. Once the valve seat well and fully, this noise should stop. And I'm guessing maybe 2 or 3 valve clearances between intervals of 5 to 10,000 kilometers. Don't wait till 10,000 kilometers. If the noise has come up at as less as 3,000 kilometers, there's a guy who visited me and his motorcycle had this noise come up at 3,000 kilometers. What am I talking about? Internet has plenty of videos for you to see. Royal Enfield 450 Himalayan Sherpa engine noise, and plenty of videos come up. I have made 2 videos myself where I have given you a very good close listen to what kind of noise my engine is making. It's a ticking noise. It's a ticking noise that's come up after a certain 1,000 kilometers. So get your valve clearance part of it done, and if that's done, problem solved. 2, if the valve clearance check doesn't help, then this could be valve guide wear. That means that you haven't checked your valve clearance at the right time, and most probably, if there is guide wear, you are running too tight a clearance. And with valve guide wear, there could be improper seating in the valve seat, and that could leak compression. And that could make your and if there's valve guide wear, there's another symptom that you could face. That's oil. The oil will start burning. You'll start losing your oil. On a long trip, you'll be able to see a difference of 200, 300, 400 milliliters of oil that's been burnt. For maybe every 1,000 kilometers, you'll end up losing 200, 300, 400 milliliters. So that's valve guide wear, that's valve seat issues. And so it's either a valve seat issue, according to me. No big engineer here, just a mechanic, DIY mechanic. So it could be a valve seat, it could be a valve guide, or it could be the valve clearance on top. Any of this can be causing this noise, and it's good to get it checked ASAP. So if this noise creeped up at a certain RPM, a certain 1,000 kilometers, then my humble request to all of you young guns out there who keep on cribbing about machines and machines and machines, is you have that problem with machines is because you still do not know how to ride an engine. You know how to ride a motorcycle, you do not know how to ride or handle an engine. Every engine has its own characteristics. And you can't really ride a Royal Enfield like the way you ride a KTM. You can't. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to build up the RPMs on a long stroke motor, a little more careful, a little more easier on a square engine like the 450. But on a short stroke, the RPMs can climb up at will, like intuitive throttling business. So you'll have to be a little careful with the 450, just a little bit careful. So you need to learn that. This will come with age, this will come with experience. You need to learn how to not ruin an engine. So for all the fellows who have had engine troubles, it's partly because of very bad throttling habits. Two, no oil change. The company recommends 10,000 kilometers. It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. I have had enough experience swapping out oils. I used to sell oils at one point of time, and I know that no oil in hot, humid weather and everyday commuting can last anywhere close to 5,000 kilometers, let alone 10,000 kilometers. Even 5,000 kilometers, you've ruined your oil royally. If it's hot office commutes every day, average 40 degrees Celsius on the road temperatures are always high. So just forget it. Stop and go traffic. Forget it. 5,000 kilometers, or then sprinting on the highway at for thousands of kilometers at a stretch. 5,000 kilometers cap. So anywhere between 3 and 5,000 kilometers is a very, very healthy practice to swap out oils if you are a moderate rider. If you're into the throttling business, if you're into racing and all that. 500 to 1,000 kilometers. That's it. You keep swapping your engine oils just to keep the engine in good nick. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say, this is irrespective of synthetic, mineral, semi-synthetic. All three, that's the same thing. The way they work inside the engine is different, but longevity part of it. In our weather, 5,000 kilometers caps. So that was that. If this helped, I'm going to go in, I'm going to look into the valves and the valve clearances. I'm not going to run you through how I'm going to do it. I would highly recommend you take the machine to an expert mechanic, not some fellow on the road, because it's a very, very sensitive area to work in the engine head, all the grime and muck on the road that can creep in. So you need a good workshop for them and you to attempt this. Or you take it to the Royal Enfield service station. They will know what to do and fix your valve clearances. So the valve clearances in spec should be 90% of problem solved. And I'm very, very sure that 1 or 2 of my valve clearances are off spec. And I'm going to check that. Once I fix that, problem solved. Let's just quickly get it. So that's the condition of the 450 now. Opened up everything. Just to inspect what's going on with the engine, why it makes that ticking noise. And here we go. Assembly issues, I guess. The timing has not been set properly on the exhaust and the inlet cam. The exhaust cam is set right, whereas the inlet cam is one tooth out. So now that how you know that is like this. This is supposed to sit in the exhaust and the inlet, whereas it's not able to. This thing does not really go into the groove. It goes into the groove of the exhaust. There's a special tool which should slide in right there. If you guys can see a cut there, this is supposed to slide in there, and here, there you go. And that is not happening because of, I don't know if you guys can see, they are not aligned together. I'm at TDC. I did a full revolution to see if they line up, and they don't. So yeah, that's surprising. And I have about 10,000 kilometers on the vehicle with one tooth off on the cam. Unbelievable. I don't know what kind of damage I might have caused, but yeah, this is some serious nonsense that Royal Enfield has to look into. Assembly issues, man, from day one till today. That's all that I've been talking about. They have great component quality, they have great design. It's just that their assembly is pathetic. And there you go, one more example. Something as crucial, as vital as this. Fucked up. Don't really know what to say. We'll jump one teeth, move one teeth and see if I can line them up, and then we'll look into the valve clearances. So the cam was out of timing, fixed it, and now everything lines up. The tool goes in well, locked it in place. If you guys can see, slot 1, slot 2, locked it in place. Now to check for the valve clearances. Let's hope all is well with the exhaust. The inlet part alone I can fix. If it's off on exhaust as well, then it's not a very healthy sign. Or my head was set up really wrong from the factory. Well, those are the values. A lot of feeler gauges and something interesting. My inlet left is 0.05. My inlet right is 0.14. I was aiming for 0.15. The allowed values or the range is 0.12 to 0.18. I'm at 0.15. Inlet right is fine. Inlet left is 0.05. That's totally off. Really tight. I'll have to increase the gap between the bucket and the cam. And then on the right, I have a 0.22 to 0.28 as a range, permissible range or allowed range, and both exhaust left and exhaust right. That is exhaust left and exhaust right cam lobes or the clearance is at 0.25 mm. Yeah, there would be a plus of minus 0.0102, but I'm totally fine. I tried the 0.30 like the company manual says, the service manual says. If it's 0.30, then you are wrong. You ought to be fixing it. But this fella is the pain in the ass. This has to be fixed. Just one damn bucket needs to be pulled out and fixed. Everything else seems to be in good nick. And this is why my machine was performing well with a minor tick. Unlike a lot of other fellows whose motorcycles are starting to tick really horribly, miserably, mine was just a minor tick. A tick that I could live with, but the tick is because of this. As simple as this. I've been telling you guys for a long time that this is not a head job. This is not really a head job. If you know what this is all about, this the valve's receding, or the valve, it's called a valve recession. The valve starting to climb up on the valve seat, and this is proof. All three of my, that is my inlet right, my exhaust left, my exhaust right, fine. Only my inlet left has climbed up. And if I were to fix this, then that shitty intermittent tick or that tick that I hear will reduce considerably. Now I'll tell you how you feel that there is an issue. Your vehicle may not surge as well as as well as another Himalayan 450, which has absolutely no ticking and no noise and nothing wrong with it. It will that sudden surge that you get at around 3,500 RPMs, that is going to be missing. That sudden crazy pull, that transition. Your vehicle will climb up to 150, 155 easily. 140 will come up in no time and all that, but it'll not have that sudden transition. That sudden transition happens only when all the clearances are working fine, especially the inlet allowing for enough fuel and air to go in. So yeah, that was the only difference. 0.05. Now I need to remove the tensioner. I need to remove the tensioner again. I just did it to move the cam by one tooth. Need to remove the tensioner again. Need to remove what else? Remove these cam retaining brackets, these two, and this cam guide on top, like another third guide, and then maybe pull out the cam, work with the left bucket, and swap out the shim. Job done. That should be it. All the O-rings and gaskets from this and the bolts that go on top, all this is in good nick. You really don't have to swap them out. You're definitely not going to have an oil leak on the rocker cover because of any of this. Royal Enfield is playing smart nowadays. They're going ahead and kind of squeezing out as much money from the users as they can. So you get this whole thing as a kit. This is the valve clearance kit. Comes at 465 Indian rupees. You don't really have to get this. That's what I'm trying to say. To be on the safer side and all that jazz, you don't really need to be worried about it. It's in very, very good condition. You don't have to worry about it. Just letting you know, don't waste money on this. maybe if you were to do the valve clearances twice, like the second time you can swap them out. Even then I don't think this will have issues, but yeah, just to be a little more proactive, you can go ahead and swap them out. And that's the amount of shims that I got for myself. Been a long time since I played with shims, so didn't have to because I was running the 411. Didn't have to. Various sizes. The intervals are 0.02s. So I have a 2 and 2.02, 2.04, 2.06, 8 and 10. And I have 2 of them, or 2 of them each. And that's the number of shims that I have with me, just to get it, to nail it. And this thing, let me just... So this is an important tool for this job. This is a crankshaft locking tool. What you saw earlier was a camshaft locking tool, and this is a crankshaft locking tool. If you want to remove 1 or 2 of the cams to adjust your valve clearances, then you'll have to lock the crank in place so that the cams don't move, and then go ahead, work on your cam or work on your valve clearance, and then come back, put the camshaft in place, put the cam locking tool in place, then release this fella. Yeah, so this is a special tool, another special tool from Royal Enfield. Okay, fellas, so drain the engine oil. Okay, yeah. Drain the engine oil. I mean, you just need to pop these 2 fellas. All your oil will come out. And then, if you guys can see, 1 second. Yep, so that's the crankshaft special tool. There's a bolt, a 14mm bolt with a copper washer. Pull that out as well. And then time to removed the timing chain tensioner, hydraulic tensioner. Now to start removing these bolts. 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. All 8 bolts. Once those bolts come out, I can lift these cam holders. These fellas are, the cam is basically running on these journals with oil, I guess. There's no bearing as such. So it's running on these cam journals, this fella, and on the engine head. And oil is what's keeping things in place. And the cams look perfect, absolutely no problems. They haven't even lost their top coat or top layer. Nothing, absolutely nothing. 10,000 kilometers of crazy riding and nothing, absolutely nothing. Very, very happy to see that the cams are in good shape and good nick. The cam decompressor also works fine. Yeah, there you go. So that is the minimum tension that the spring should have. If you have the spring come loose, this fella will stay in place. It will not go back. So the 411s have a problem with the bloody cam chain tensioner. The decompressor, auto decompressor spring stretching too much. That this loses its tension, and that causes all kinds of erratic noises and compression loss. Well, that's that. I will quickly start removing these bolts and access, pull the cam out, this inlet cam out, and we'll also pull the, the bucket out, and get access to the shim. We'll measure the shim and then let you guys know what's the difference. Okay, so you'll have to move the cams just a little bit by rotating the crankshaft, just a little bit, so that you can shove that fellow in. So the crankshaft locking tool goes in only when you have the the cams pointing at that angle. When they were parallel to the surface of the head where the camshaft locking tool went in, the crankshaft tool wasn't able to go in. That went in only when you kind of, just a little more forward, that is anti-clockwise, and then you can shove it in. That's the angle of the camshaft. Anyways, don't do this, fellas. on your own unless you know what you're doing. So just a little bit of a security system, marking the timing chain to the making marks on the timing chain and the camshafts also, just to know where things were when you put them back together. The camshaft is in good nick. No wear marks on the ramp. There's a little bit of a scuffing going on the journals. On that side, nothing much on this side, but no wear marks except for the what can I call them? The sharp, not on the ramp, but on the tips, on the ends, on the lobes. Yeah, then that's to be expected. Nothing abnormal. No pitting as such. This I need to look into. Why the journals are eating into the surface. But then anyways, so far so good. And those are the buckets. Going to be pulling out the one on the left and inspecting the shim. These things have to be measured with micrometers, and I don't have a micrometer with me. I only have a vernier caliper. I did measure some of the shims with my vernier caliper. It was a 0.01 millimeter that was off. So it's pretty accurate. And yeah, there you go. The shim that came out of the machine is 2 millimeters. Grinding a fucking shim. This was the last thing I wanted to do. And that's where I am today. I have to grind a shim. I got all the bloody sizes that I wanted to work with, or I guessed, and all of them turned out to be wrong. All I got was everything above 2 millimeters. And now my machine requires a 1.92 to strike a 0.15 valve clearance. Sad, terribly sad. I have everything starting from 2, so I have to grind down a shim. And if you know, grinding shims are a forever process. It's not easy. You can go wrong if you try a coarser material to grind it with. You'll have to be very careful. Go soft. I'm using a 320 grit on a nice and flat surface, going very soft, evenly grinding. You need. This is a lot of skill. There's a lot of know-how to do it. It's not rocket science, but it's a lot of experience. So go slow with this, fellas. If you have to. Otherwise, go get the right shim. Today is a holiday. There's absolutely no way I can source myself a shim. So, yeah, this is the best bet. Let me see what I can do with this. Out came a 2.2 or 2 millimeters. The minimum value that I had with me was a 2 millimeter. That's the shim. Shim valve 2 millimeters. Ground it on a sandpaper for almost half an hour, very carefully, to get it to 1.9 millimeters. Now all's well. You can go ahead with this, and that's the grounded surface. That's how it's supposed to look. If you have an even cross-hatching business going on. So now we have 1.9 millimeter shim with us. That's the exact targeted value for 0.15 millimeter clearance. That's the 1.9 that's gone in. That's going to get me a 0.15 clearance on top with the bucket. You see this clip here? This one on the top. This clip has to sit here. And that is what we need to do. We need to compress this locking tab and get this ring to sit here. Done. There you go. So to release the tensioner that is locked, to come and press on the pad, timing chain pad, all you need to do is just find a paintbrush and insert it from over here and push on the timing chain from the inside. This is to create pressure. There you go, done. Yep, so moment of truth. Gave the engine 3 or 4 revolutions. got the camshaft to line up, got the camshaft locking tool in place, and that is 0.152. There you go. Slides in with enough resistance, just enough to tell me that this is a 0.14 something, not a 1.5. Not comfortable, goes in, but with a little bit of resistance. So that's a 0.15 or 1.4 something. There you go. Fixed. And on the right would be again. There you go. Again, both would be 0.14 or something. One last thing before I wind up, fellas. These 3 bolts and the cam holding bracket, the ones with the journals, those brackets with their bolts, all loose, all not tightened to spec from factory. Really sad, man. I don't know, from the day I got this bike, I've found assembly issues. I feel terrible about such things. Great component quality, fantastic engineering, let down by the people in the factory who put things together. I wish Royal Enfield employed much better staff to do the assembly part of it. QC is pathetic. Honestly speaking, QC is pathetic. These 3 bolts, super loose, maybe 6 to 8 Newton meters instead of 11 Newton meters. The cam journals, the ones that the cam supporting brackets, those fellows were off by 2 Newton meters as well. They're supposed to be 10 Newton meters. I believe I would have gotten 8 Newton meters at best. Sad. They're supposed to be more tight with time, with engine heat and all that, but they were super loose to open and terrible. 2 terrible assembly issues. One with a cam teeth off by 1 tooth. Retard. Good that it was retard, it was not advanced. If it was advanced, then maybe I would have had lots of issues already. But anyways, what can you do? That's assembly line at Royal Enfield. Putting things back together. I need to get some fresh engine oil, and then we'll crank the motor and see how the motor sounds. It should sound all right. It should sound perfect, in fact. Okay, fellas. So that is the engine noise. Nice hot spin, like really ripped it. Hi, fellas, man, back again. So the verdict, did it eradicate the tick? It eradicated the intermittent tick. Now, if you know what happens when you run tighter valve clearances. There's an inconsistent ticking business going on throughout the rev range. It's not just at idling, throughout the rev range. And I was also running retard on my inlet timing. So that could also be the cause for a poor bottom end performance. Top end was fantastic, but the bottom end was really suffering. So that is why I felt like there was absolutely nothing in the throttle from the beginning at the bottom end. Now it seems to be much better, so much more spritey, I would say. We've fixed that. The performance is back. The intermittent ticking, irritant ticking is gone. There's a constant tick, like the tick that you find when you have slightly looser valve clearances, and that's what's going on now. And I'm totally fine with that, because when you ride, you don't feel an irritating engine. That's very important. If you understand what I'm trying to say, an engine that doesn't breathe well, you can feel it in your hands when you're riding. an engine that breathes well, you don't care a crap. Like the 411, there, that fella breathes well, and all the noise that the tech camshaft and all the looser clearances contribute, I don't care a damn about it. It's because rest of the throttle, there is power, there is instant power. The bike breathes well. So more important is the fact that the bikes breathe well. And so now with the new clearance in inlet, the bike is just fantastic, flawless. There is a consistent tick throughout the rev range, and that is coming from, I believe that's coming from looser valve clearances, or maybe something wearing out in the engine, but we'll have to give it some time and see. Maybe the valve guides, but we'll have to give it some time and see. For now, all's well. All's well that ends well. So if this helped in any way, your bike will definitely feel 1,000 times better than how it was with tighter valve clearances. Give it a shot and you'll be thanking me. Ciao.